Hi everyone, I hope life is treating you kindly. I'm Lubomira and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to all my crafty friends, new and returning. I always look forward to this time of the week when we get together for some crafting fun. If you're new to my channel, I'm glad you found your way over here and I invite you to check out more of my videos. I love sharing my projects with you all and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend a few crafty moments with me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. By hitting that little bell, you'll get notified every time I post something new and you won't miss out on any of the crafty goodness. In today's video, I'm sharing a really versatile card that can be used really for any occasion that you can send love and hugs. It has a modern feel to it and uses a stencil embossing technique to further stretch those supplies in our stash. I'm excited to share this card with you, so let's get into the video. To create this card, I used a Dollar Tree spin wheel stencil, 2 stamp sets, a paper pack, and some baker's twine. I decided to emboss with mine. I first separated the 4 patterns by cutting the stencil apart. For me personally, I get more use out of these when they are separated. How you separate them is up to you. You can definitely try prying out that middle eyelet, but I just cut around it. I use the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cut machine, and I really appreciate that the designers of this machine put the sandwich information on the platforms themselves. There is no risk of losing papers or having to look anything up. It's all there for you. Having said that though, you might have to fudge some plate combinations for yourself when using some oddball supplies. For stencils, I use the recommended sandwich for embossing a cut shape, which is the A and B platform, the E rubber mat, and the D adapter plate. I add the F shim between the A and B platform. You'd be surprised how much that thin layer will make a difference. I also add another layer of cardstock over the top of the stencil, so the end sandwich is A, F, B, E, cardstock with the stencil over it, then another piece of cardstock on top of the stencil, and then the D adapter plate to cover and hold everything in place. I ran the entire thing through my machine off camera, and the result is a textured background with a slightly raised surface. This isn't as defined or detailed as an embossing folder or a 3D embossing folder, but rather more subtle. You can still notice it and definitely feel it with your hands. Using a trimmer, I cut down the panel because I wanted to use it as an accent. I wasn't sure how much to cut down first, but I ended up with a 3 by 4¼ inch piece of cardstock when I was done. Next, I stamped the vase with the flower image from the Dollar Tree Love Themed stamp set. I'm sure that a lot of people would pass up this set because it is very specific, but there are ways to, for a lack of a better term, to neutralize images. I like the shape and general look of the image, but I went ahead and masked the heart in the middle to make it fit for every day. Now, is this necessary? Absolutely not. It's completely up to you. I just wanted to show you another way of getting more out of your stamps that may have more specific details. I applied black pigment ink to the image, and then I put a small amount of mint tape to cover the heart directly before stamping. Just remember to take the mask off if you have to reapply ink, and replace it when you are ready to stamp again. After stamping the image, I applied clear embossing powder to the wet ink and heat set it with my heat tool. Before setting the image aside to work on other parts of the card, I went ahead and cut it out off camera. I created a card base using some green paper I found in a Dollar Tree paper pack. This piece was large enough to create an entire panel with. However, it was very thin and wouldn't be able to hold up on its own. I cut it down with my trimmer and then attached it to a white card base using liquid glue. I went back to the stamped image to add color to it and coordinate it with the card base. I used distressed ink in the color Peeling Paint and quickly watercolored the vase. This adds just the pop of color without having to do labor-intensive coloring. I smushed the mini ink pad onto a piece of plastic. This is actually a laminated piece of cardstock that I use for ink smushing and the smallest of watercolor projects like this. It's really an easy and quick way of setting up and then cleaning up. To apply the color, I used a water brush, also from the Dollar Tree. I'm not planning to create masterpieces with this brush, but for what I'm doing right here, it works just fine. It doesn't drip unless I squeeze it, and it holds water and spreads color as expected. I let the image dry before moving on to the next step. It didn't take long because I really didn't saturate the area too much, keeping in mind that I wasn't using watercolor paper to begin with. I started to put the card together at this point. I rounded the corners of the embossed white panel, and I added foam tape to the back of it, but before attaching it to the card base, I wrapped a little bit of twine around the bottom. I hadn't intended to do this, but I noticed the twine off to the side of my desk and realized that it would go well with the green I had in the card. Today is a matchy kind of day, as my husband would say. On a side note, here's something I find humor in when it comes to my husband. Does your significant other have to be color coordinated? My husband believes in color coordinating everything. His t-shirt, his sneakers, his shorts, everything is matchy-matchy. And I know he gets it from his mom, who will color coordinate to the very scrunchie in her hair. What drives me nuts is when he tells me colors don't go together because they don't match. I point out that there are entire course studies dedicated to color and color theory, but he remains firm on the matchy-matchy. Am I alone in this, or does your loved one have a similar view? I'm just curious. Getting back to the crafting, I attached the panel off-center to the card front. I created a faux bow by looping some string and tying it in the middle. Then I glued it in place where the string crossed in the front. I added the vase on top of the string next to the bow using foam tape. I trimmed the bow string and I added a dab of glue to the end so that it wouldn't fray. For the greeting, I used the sentiment "With love and hugs" from the Dollar Tree assorted greeting set with the large hello. I prepped a piece of black cardstock with an anti-static tool and then stamped the greeting with clear Versamark ink. I applied white embossing powder to the wet ink and then heat set it with my heat tool. I trimmed the greeting with my trimmer and then with some scissors before adding it to the front of the card with foam tape. I cut it so that it tucked under the flowers and stretched across the white panel. To finish the card, I added some coordinating green enamel dots and some clear Nuvo crystal drops for extra shine. I used a Dollar Tree piercing tool to spread out some of the crystal drops along the vase for a nice finish. And that's it for this card. I like how modern this card came out. It definitely leans toward a clean and simple card design, and I know my husband will love the matchy-matchiness of it. I think this card could be mass-produced if you needed more, and you could mix up the colors. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thank you for spending some time with me today. I always look forward to sharing my videos with you, and I hope you enjoyed them. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave me those comments. It makes my day every time I see them, and I so appreciate all the nice things you have to say. I hope you'll join me next time for another project. Until then, have an amazing week, and I hope life treats you kindly. Take care. Bye.